The doors of the gravity well slid open with a tired hiss. Day stepped inside and immediately felt the weight of 100 different eyes on him. Not because he was special, but because he was human. Out here on Orbital Station Nexus 7, humans were rare. Most of the galaxy's species came through this trading hub, but Earth's people usually stayed closer to home. The bar smelled like a mix of chemicals and alcohol that Day couldn't identify. Different species needed different drinks to get drunk, and the air recyclers could never quite clear the combination. He didn't mind. After 3 months hauling cargo through dead space, any atmosphere with other living beings felt good. Day spotted Hana at a corner table near the viewing window. She waved at him with a tired smile. Hana worked as a medic on the station, patching up whoever got hurt in the dangerous work of keeping a space station running. They had been friends since training back on Earth, before Day left the military and Hana chose medicine over combat. He started walking toward her table, weaving between chairs and tables filled with aliens. There were Quellans with their 4 arms, Synthians with their metallic skin that reflected the bar lights, and several species he didn't recognize. Most ignored him, but a few stared with curiosity or suspicion. Near the center of the room sat the biggest group in the bar. 7 massive creatures filled a table built for 12. They were Vrexen, a reptilian species known for being aggressive and territorial. Day had seen them before, but never up close. They stood at least 8 feet tall, with scaled skin that ranged from dark green to almost black. Their eyes were yellow with vertical pupils, and when they opened their mouths to laugh, they showed rows of sharp teeth. The Vrexen were clearly celebrating something. Empty containers littered their table, and they were loud, very loud. Other patrons kept their distance, giving the group plenty of space. Smart move. Day was almost past their table when one of the Vrexen warriors shifted in his seat without looking. His thick tail swept across the floor just as Day stepped forward. Day's boot caught on the tail and he stumbled, catching himself on the edge of the Vrexen table. A few empty containers fell over, clattering against the metal surface. The celebration stopped immediately. The bar seemed to go quiet even though the other patrons were still talking. It just felt quiet. The Vrexen whose tail Day had tripped over slowly stood up. He was massive even for his species. His scales were darker than the others, almost black with scars running across his arms and face. This was someone who had seen combat. "You touched me," the Vrexen said. His voice was deep and rumbling like rocks grinding together. He spoke in standard Galactic, the common language most species used for trade and diplomacy. "Sorry," Day said, keeping his voice calm. "Didn't see your tail. My mistake." "Your mistake," the Vrexen repeated like he was tasting the words. "Yes, your mistake." He took a step forward, towering over Day. "You will fix this mistake. You will lie on the ground and put your face to the floor. You will stay there until I tell you to rise." Day felt something cold settle in his stomach. In Vrexen culture, making someone prostrate themselves was a deep insult. It was what you did to defeated enemies or slaves. But refusing might mean a fight, and Day had promised himself he was done with fighting. "I apologized," Day said carefully. "I think that's enough." The big Vrexen's eyes narrowed. You think? He looked back at his companions, who were all watching now with interest. "The little primate thinks—" The others laughed. It was a harsh barking sound. Another Vrexen stood up from the table. This one wore different clothing than the others, more decorated with what looked like metal clasps and symbols. A captain, Day realized. The leader, humans. The captain said, walking around the table to stand next to the first warrior. Weak little primates who only survived first contact because stronger species allowed it. "You know this, yes? You know that your species exists because we let you exist?" Day said nothing. He had heard this kind of talk before. Some species in the galaxy looked at humans and saw weak prey animals. They saw creatures without natural weapons, without thick armor or scales, without the ability to breathe poison or survive in vacuum. They didn't understand that humans had their own strengths. "I asked you a question, primate," the captain said, stepping closer. "You will answer when your betters speak to you." From across the bar, Hana had noticed the situation. Day saw her start to stand up, saw the concern on her face. He gave her a small shake of his head, trying to tell her to stay back. This didn't need to get worse, but Hana was never good at staying back when her friends were in trouble. She walked over quickly, putting herself slightly between Day and the Vrexen. "There's no problem here," she said, her voice friendly but firm. She had the kind of voice that worked well in medical bays, calm and authoritative. Just an accident. Let's all go back to our drinks. The Vrexen captain looked down at her. For a moment, Day thought it might actually work. Then the captain's expression changed to something that might have been amusement. Another primate, he said. This one is female, yes? Does she fight for you? Does the male hide behind the female? His companions laughed again. Nobody needs to fight, Hannah said. We're leaving. Enjoy your evening. She turned to guide Day away. They had taken maybe 2 steps when the Vrexen captain reached out and shoved Hannah hard on the shoulder. She wasn't expecting it. She stumbled and fell, hitting the floor hard enough that Day heard the impact. The bar went completely silent now. Even the patrons who had been ignoring the situation stopped and stared. Day helped Hannah sit up. She was okay, just surprised and angry. But something had changed in Day. He could feel it like a switch flipping inside his brain. It was the same feeling he used to get in the military, right before things went bad. Cold, clear, focused. He stood up slowly and turned to face the Vrexen captain. The big warrior who had started this, the one called Krell, was grinning, showing all those teeth. The captain looked pleased with himself. Day walked back toward them. He moved calmly, deliberately. He reached up and pulled off his jacket, folding it carefully and setting it on a nearby chair. Under the jacket, he wore a simple shirt that showed arms marked with old scars and the kind of muscle that came from hard work, not a gym. Just you, Day said quietly, looking at the captain. Or all of you? The captain stared at him for a moment, then threw his head back and laughed. It was a genuine laugh full of real amusement. He looked at his crew, at Krell and the others, and they were all laughing too. All of us? The captain repeated. You challenge all of us? He stepped forward until he was close enough that Day could smell the alcohol on his breath. Yes, little primate, all of us. We will teach you what happens when prey forgets its place. The captain gestured to his crew. One by one, all 7 Vrexen warriors stood up. They moved away from the table, spreading out to surround Day. Other patrons scrambled to get out of the way, pressing themselves against the walls or diving behind the bar. Hannah had gotten to her feet. Day, don't, she said. But her voice sounded far away. The bartender, a Quellan named Bix with 4 arms and blue skin, was frantically tapping at his communication device. Calling security, probably. But security was always slow to respond to fights in the gravity well. By the time they arrived, it would be over. Day looked at the 7 warriors surrounding him. Each one was bigger than him, stronger than him, faster than him. They had claws and teeth and reflexes that evolution had sharpened for hunting. Any one of them could probably kill him if they really tried. He rolled his shoulders, loosening the muscles. His ribs still hurt from where he had taken a bad fall during the last cargo run. His left knee had been giving him trouble for years, ever since a training accident in the military. He was tired, hungry, and had been looking forward to a quiet drink with an old friend. But that wasn't happening now. Krell moved first, and the fight began. Krell came at Day like a missile. The big Vrexen was fast. Faster than anything that size should be. His species had evolved as hunters, and it showed. He covered the distance between them in less than a second, his clawed hand reaching for Day's throat. Day didn't try to dodge. He couldn't, not completely. Vrexen reflexes were too quick for a human to match. Instead, he did what his instructors had taught him years ago in the Colonial Marines. He moved just enough. Instead of grabbing Day's throat, Krell's hand caught his shoulder. The claws dug in deep and Day felt hot blood start running down his arm. It hurt, but pain was something you could ignore if you had to. Using Krell's own momentum, Day twisted and pulled. The Vrexen stumbled forward, not expecting his target to move toward him instead of away. Day guided that momentum straight into a table. Krell hit it hard, and the table broke under his weight with a loud crash. The other Vrexen didn't wait. 2 more came at Day from different sides, working together like they had done this many times before. Military training, Day realized. These weren't just random warriors. They knew how to fight as a team. The one on the left swung at Day's head. The one on the right went low, trying to sweep his legs. Classic pincer attack. Day jumped back, but not fast enough. The low sweep caught his ankle and sent him stumbling. The high punch clipped his jaw, and he saw stars for a moment. He hit the ground hard, and immediately 2 more Vrexen were on him. One tried to pin his arms while the other raised a fist to strike down at his face. Day bucked his hips and twisted, throwing off the one holding him just enough to roll away from the strike. The Vrexen's fist hit the metal floor where Day's head had been a second ago. The sound echoed through the bar like a gunshot. Day scrambled to his feet. His shoulder was bleeding badly now, his jaw hurt and his ankle felt twisted. He had been in the fight for maybe 30 seconds and he was already injured. The 7 Vrexen circled him and none of them looked tired at all. Behind the bar, Hana was shouting something, but Day couldn't focus on her words. All his attention was on the warriors around him. Krell had gotten back up and was shaking his head, angry now. The captain stood back, watching with his arms crossed like this was entertainment. "Finish him," the captain said casually. "But keep him alive. I want him to crawl to the security officers when they arrive." 3 Vrexen attacked at once. Day couldn't track all of them. He caught a punch on his arm, blocked a kick with his leg, but missed the 3rd attacker who got past his guard and slammed a fist into his ribs. Day felt something crack. Definitely broken ribs now. He gasped for air and backed away, trying to create distance. But there was no distance to create. The bar wasn't that big and the Vrexen kept coming. They hit him again and again. Each impact was like getting hit with a metal bat. His species wasn't built to take this kind of damage. Except humans were built for exactly this kind of damage. They just didn't know it. Day had studied biology before joining the military. He knew what made humans different. Other species in the galaxy had evolved in different ways. Some became fast, some became strong, some became smart. Humans had evolved to do one thing better than any other species known to exist. Humans evolved to not stop. Krell grabbed Day by the shirt and lifted him off the ground. The Vrexen's strength was incredible. He held Day up with one hand and pulled back the other to strike. His claws were extended, ready to tear into flesh. "This is what happens to prey," Krell growled. Then Day did something that shocked the Vrexen. He smiled. Blood on his teeth, broken ribs grinding together, shoulder torn open, and Day smiled. "Not prey," Day said. "Predator." He slammed his forehead into Krell's snout as hard as he could. The headbutt surprised the Vrexen more than it hurt him, but it was enough. Krell dropped Day and stumbled back, touching his snout in confusion. Nothing hit Vrexen in the face. They were apex predators. Things ran from them, not at them. Day landed and immediately attacked. He knew he couldn't match their strength or speed. But he could match their violence and he could outlast them. That was the human advantage. Humans were endurance hunters. Back on Earth, his ancestors had hunted prey by chasing it until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Humans couldn't run as fast as deer, but they could run longer. They could keep going when everything else stopped. He went after the smallest Vrexen in the group, a warrior who had been hanging back. Day moved inside his guard before he could react, got behind him and wrapped his arms around the warrior's thick neck. A chokehold. The Vrexen thrashed and tried to throw him off, but Day held on. His ribs screamed in pain. His shoulder bled and bled. He held on anyway. The other Vrexen tried to pull Day off, but in the confusion they just got in each other's way. After 20 seconds of struggling, the Vrexen in the chokehold went limp. Day let him drop and immediately rolled away from the other's attacks. 1 down. 6 to go. The Vrexen were being more careful now. They had seen one of their own go down and it confused them. This wasn't how fights were supposed to go. Prey didn't fight back like this. Prey didn't keep getting up, but Day kept getting up. Every time they knocked him down, he stood back up. His body was screaming at him to stop, to stay down, to quit. That was what a smart person would do. But Day had never been smart about things like this. In the military, his commanders had called it stubbornness. His squad mates had called it crazy. Day just called it not quitting. Time became strange. The fight stretched out. 1 minute became 2. 2 became 3. For a Vrexen used to quick, violent encounters, 3 minutes of fighting was an eternity. They were breathing hard now, their movements slower. Their biology was built for fast, powerful attacks, not extended combat. Day was breathing hard too, but he could breathe hard for hours if he had to. Humans could run marathons. Humans could work all day in fields under hot sun. Humans could march for miles carrying heavy packs. This was what they did. This was what they were. He caught one Vrexen with a kick to the knee, heard something pop, and watched the warrior go down clutching his leg. 2 down, 5 to go. Krell came at him again, angrier now. Day didn't try to block or dodge. He took the hit on his already broken ribs and used the momentum to get close. His hand found a pressure point on Krell's neck that he had learned in training. The big Vrexen's eyes went wide and his legs gave out. He didn't pass out, but he couldn't stand. 3 down, 4 to go. Behind the bar, Hana was talking to the Quellan bartender. Day caught pieces of their conversation between exchanges of punches. His species hunted prey by chasing it until it collapsed from exhaustion. Hana was saying, humans can regulate their body temperature through sweating. Most species can't. We can cool ourselves down while moving, which means we can keep going when other species overheat. But the Vrexen are so much stronger, Bix said, all four of his arms gesturing in distress. Strength doesn't matter if you're too tired to use it, Hana replied. The remaining four Vrexen were starting to understand this. They had hit Day dozens of times. He should be unconscious or dead. But he was still moving, still fighting, still getting back up. His face was a mask of blood and bruises. His movements were slower now, less precise. But he wasn't stopping. One of the Vrexen, younger than the others, backed away. This isn't natural, he said in his own language. Day didn't speak Vrexen, but he understood fear in any language. The captain finally stepped forward. He had been watching the whole time, confident that his warriors would handle one human easily. Now 3 of his crew were down and the other 3 were exhausted and scared. Enough, the captain said. He reached to his belt and pulled out a curved blade. It gleamed under the bar lights. No more playing. The moment the blade came out, an alarm started blaring through the bar. Bix had hit the emergency alert. Drawing weapons in a station bar was a capital offense under Nexus 7 law. Security would come now, armed and ready for lethal force. But security was still several minutes away. Day looked at the blade, then at the captain, then at the 3 remaining warriors who were getting their second wind now that their leader had escalated things. 4 armed Vrexen against 1 injured human. Day's broken ribs made it hard to breathe. His shoulder had bled so much that his entire left side was covered in red. His ankle could barely support his weight. His face felt like one giant bruise. He picked up a metal chair that had been knocked over during the fight. It was heavy, made of station-grade metal that could withstand different species' strength levels. It would do. Come on then, Day said. His voice was rough but steady. Let's finish this. The captain moved first with his blade leading. Day threw the metal chair at him, not trying to hit him but to force him to react. The captain batted the chair aside with his free hand, but it gave Day the second he needed to close the distance with the nearest warrior. In close quarters, size became a disadvantage. The Vrexen warrior tried to bring his claws to bear, but Day was already inside his reach, pressed up against him. Day drove his elbow into the warrior's throat, then grabbed his arm and twisted hard. The Vrexen gasped and bent forward. Day brought his knee up into the warrior's face. The impact sent a spike of pain through Day's already injured leg, but the warrior dropped. 4 down. 3 to go. But now the other 2 warriors had him surrounded with the captain. The blade came at Day from the side. He saw it too late to dodge completely. The curved edge caught his arm, opening another deep cut from elbow to wrist. Blood flowed hot and fast. That was bad. That was very bad. Too much blood loss and even human endurance had limits. Day stumbled back against a support beam. The 3 Vrexen advanced slowly, more careful now. They had learned respect, but they were still going to kill him if they could. Then something happened that changed everything. Through the bar's main entrance came a group of aliens that had been watching the fight on their personal devices. News of the brawl had spread through the station's network. Among the newcomers, Day spotted 3 humans. Station workers by their clothing, probably technicians or cargo handlers like himself. The humans took one look at the situation and didn't hesitate. They picked up whatever they could find to use as weapons. Broken table legs, serving trays, anything. Hey, one of them shouted at the Vrexen. You want humans? Here's more humans. The Vrexen captain turned to look at the newcomers, surprised. In his culture, fights were individual or between designated warriors. Random people didn't just join in. But humans didn't follow those rules. When humans saw one of their own in trouble, they came running. It was instinct, something deep in their tribal nature. More humans appeared. A colonial fleet officer who had been drinking in another section of the station arrived still in civilian clothes but moving with military precision. 2 human merchants. A young human woman who worked in the station's hydroponics bay. Within a minute, there were 8 humans total facing the 3 remaining Vrexen warriors. The Vrexen looked at each other, confused. The captain's confidence wavered. This wasn't how things were supposed to work. Hana ran to Day with a medical kit she had grabbed from behind the bar. She started working on his arm wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "You're an idiot," she said, but her voice was gentle. "A complete idiot." "Yeah," Day agreed. His vision was getting blurry from blood loss. Probably. The standoff held. Neither side moved. The Vrexen knew they could probably still win a fight, but it would cost them. The humans knew the same thing. The bar was silent except for the blaring alarm and the sound of Day's labored breathing. Then the bar's doors opened again, and everything changed. A massive Vrexen female entered. She was old. Her scales faded to a dull gray-green, her movements slow and deliberate. But she carried herself with authority that made everyone in the bar stop and stare. Behind her came a Vrexen male in formal diplomatic robes. Ambassador Shrell, Day realized. The Vrexen consul to Nexus 7. "What," the old female said in a voice like grinding stone, "is happening here?" The captain straightened immediately. "Matriarch Kress," he said, and there was fear in his voice, real fear. "This human attacked my crew without provocation." "Liar," Hana said sharply. She pointed at the captain. "Your warrior tripped my friend, then demanded he humiliate himself. When I tried to calm things down, you pushed me to the ground. That's when Day defended me." Matriarch Kress looked at Bix, the bartender. "Is this true?" Bix's forearms moved in a gesture that meant agreement. "Yes, Honored One. I witnessed everything." The human was walking to his table. The contact was accidental. The captain's crew escalated. The captain drew a blade first. The human only defended himself and his companion. The matriarch walked slowly to where 3 Vrexen warriors lay unconscious or injured on the floor. She examined them, then looked at Day. Her ancient eyes studied him with intensity. She walked closer and Hana moved protectively in front of Day, but the matriarch waved her aside gently. "You did this," the matriarch said to Day. It wasn't a question. "You defeated 3 of my people while injured." Day tried to stand straighter, but his body wasn't cooperating. 4, he corrected. 4 of them went down before the captain drew his blade. 6 total if you count the ones after. The matriarch's eyes widened slightly. Then, to everyone's surprise, she made a sound that might have been a laugh. 6, she repeated. "You fought 6 Vrexen warriors and remained standing." She turned to look at the captain. "And you felt the need to draw a blade against an injured opponent." "He is just a human," the captain protested. "They are weak." "Everyone knows this. Weak," the matriarch repeated. She looked back at Day. "This one has broken bones. I can see it in how he breathes. He has lost much blood. His body is damaged in many places. Yet he stands, he fights. He does not yield." She moved her head in a gesture that seemed like respect. "We have stories in our old texts. Stories of the first hunters who could not be killed, who would not stop, who chased their prey across the world until the prey's heart burst from exhaustion. We thought they were myths." At the bar's entrance, more security officers had arrived. They were Quellan peacekeepers, heavily armed and ready to deal with violence. Their commander, a female named Voss, took in the scene with all 4 of her eyes at once. "What happened here?" Commander Voss demanded. Multiple voices started talking at once. The captain tried to explain his version. Hana gave hers. Other patrons who had witnessed the start of the fight added their accounts. Through it all, Matriarch Kress stood silent, just watching Day with those ancient eyes. Finally, Ambassador Shrell stepped forward. He was younger than the matriarch, but still old enough to command respect. "Commander Voss," he said formally, "this is a matter that concerns Vrexen honor law. I invoke Article 17 of the Nexus 7 Charter. This should be judged by both our laws and yours." Commander Voss looked unhappy but nodded. The Nexus 7 Charter allowed for cultural mediation when different species' legal systems came into conflict. It was meant to prevent incidents from becoming wars. "Fine," Voss said, "but first everyone involved comes to the security station for formal statements. And someone get that human to medical before he bleeds out on my station." Medical personnel arrived with a stretcher, but Day refused it. He would walk. He had to walk. If he got on that stretcher, it would be an admission of weakness, and he couldn't afford that right now, not with the Vrexen watching. Hana supported him on one side. The Colonial Fleet officer, who introduced himself as Lieutenant Minho, supported him on the other. Together they walked out of the gravity well while the entire bar watched in silence. As they were leaving, Day heard one of the alien patrons, a Cynthian information broker, speaking rapidly into a communication device. Yes, I have the recording. Full footage. This is going to spread across the network fast. A human fought 6 Vrexen warriors alone and won. The entire galaxy is going to want to see this. That was when Day realized this wasn't over. Not even close. This was just beginning. At the security station, they put Day in a medical room while Hana and a station doctor worked on his injuries. 3 broken ribs, 2 deep lacerations requiring surgical glue, a sprained ankle, mild concussion, severe bruising across most of his body. The doctor, a Quellan named Ron, kept making distressed sounds as he cataloged each injury. "You should be in a coma," Ron said. "These injuries should have incapacitated you." "How are you still fighting?" "Stubbornness," Day said. Then he passed out. He woke up 3 hours later to find Hana sitting beside his bed watching a news screen on the wall. It was showing footage from the bar fight. Someone had recorded the whole thing, and now it was playing on every news network in multiple systems. "You're famous," Hana said without looking away from the screen. "The entire galaxy is watching a human fight 6 aliens and refuse to stay down. Military analysts from a dozen species are studying your tactics. Biologists are arguing about human endurance capabilities. Politicians are having emergency meetings." "Great," Day muttered. His entire body felt like one giant bruise. "It gets better," Hana continued. "The Vrexen Empire has dispatched a battlecruiser to Nexus 7. They're calling it a diplomatic mission, but everyone knows what it really is. They're angry that one of their ship's crews was humiliated by a human. Terra has responded by sending diplomatic vessels and military escorts." Day closed his eyes. "This was just a bar fight." "Not anymore," Hana said. "Now it's a galactic incident." On the screen, analysts were breaking down the fight frame by frame. They showed how Day had used tactics that minimized the Vrexen advantages in speed and strength. They highlighted his refusal to stay down, his endurance, his adaptation. One analyst, a military strategist from the Crothan Empire, said something that made Hana turn up the volume. The Vrexen battlecruiser arrived 16 hours after the fight. Day was still in the medical bay when the alert went out across the station. Every screen showed the same image. A massive warship, dark and angular, moving into position just outside the station's defensive perimeter. It was called the Blood Talon, and it carried enough weapons to destroy Nexus 7 3 times over. Station residents panicked. Ships that could leave started undocking immediately. Species that had long-standing conflicts with the Vrexen Empire were especially quick to run. Within 2 hours, the station's population had dropped by 40%. Those who remained either couldn't afford to leave or had nowhere else to go. Day watched the news coverage from his hospital bed. Hana sat beside him, her face tight with worry. On the screen, a Vrexen commander named Thren was broadcasting from the Blood Talon. He spoke in formal Vrexen, but the station AI translated his words into standard Galactic. "The Vrexen Empire demands justice," Commander Thren announced. "One of our crews was assaulted by a human on this neutral station. 6 warriors were injured. This is an act of aggression against our people. We demand the human called Day be surrendered to us for trial under Vrexen law." The screen split to show the response from Earth's government. Ambassador Park, a human diplomat with gray hair and tired eyes, spoke from a conference room somewhere in the Terran Colonial Administration building. "Terra rejects this demand," Ambassador Park said firmly. "The human in question acted in self-defense after being attacked by Vrexen warriors. Station security footage confirms this. We will not surrender one of our citizens to face a trial in a system designed to find him guilty. Then you choose war," Commander Thren replied. The tension in those words made everyone on the station stop and stare at their screens. War between Terra and the Vrexen Empire would be catastrophic. Both species had significant military forces. Both had allies. A conflict between them could drag half the galaxy into war. Ambassador Park's expression didn't change. Terra chooses to protect its citizens. If the Vrexen Empire wants war over a bar fight, then the Empire must ask itself if that war is worth the cost. Behind Ambassador Park, the screen showed something that made the Vrexen commander pause. 2 Terran destroyers had jumped into the system, taking up positions between the station and the Blood Talon. They were smaller than the Vrexen cruiser, but they were heavily armed and their weapons were hot. The standoff held for hours. Both sides had their weapons ready. One wrong move, one nervous weapons officer, and everything would explode into violence. In the medical bay, a security officer arrived to escort Day to a meeting. Despite his injuries, they needed him mobile. Hana helped him dress in clean clothes, working carefully around his bandages. "This is insane," Hana said as she helped him with his shirt. "You got into a fight and now there are warships pointing guns at each other." "I know," Day said. Every movement hurt, but he could move. That was what mattered. "I should have just walked away. They pushed me down," Hana reminded him. "You couldn't walk away from that." "Maybe I should have tried harder." Hana grabbed his face gently, making him look at her. "Listen to me. You defended someone who couldn't defend themselves. That's who you are. That's who humans are. Don't apologize for it." The security officer led them through the station's corridors. Other residents watched as they passed, some with fear, some with curiosity, some with something that might have been respect. Word had spread about what happened. Everyone knew the human who had fought 6 Rexan warriors and refused to quit. The meeting was being held in the station administrator's conference room. When Day arrived, he found an impressive collection of people already there. Commander Voss of Station Security, Ambassador Shrell representing the Vrexan Empire on the station, Matriarch Cress, the old Vrexan female from the bar, Ambassador Park, who had traveled from Earth specifically for this, and several other officials from various species, all looking stressed and worried. Matriarch Cress was the first to speak when Day entered. "The warrior arrives," she said. "Come, sit. Despite your injuries." Day sat carefully, trying not to show how much it hurt. Hana stood behind him, one hand on his shoulder in support. Ambassador Park spoke next. "Day, the Vrexan Empire wants to put you on trial for assault. They claim you attacked their warriors without provocation. Station security footage proves otherwise, but Commander Thren doesn't care about facts. He wants blood to satisfy his people's honor." "What he wants," Matriarch Cress interrupted, "is to save face. The footage of this fight has spread across the Empire. Young Vrexan warriors are watching a single human defeat, 6 of their kind. This challenges everything they believe about their superiority. Commander Thren needs to restore that belief, and the only way he can do that is by making an example of you." "So what do I do?" Day asked. "You let us protect you," Ambassador Park said. "Terra will not surrender you. We'll fight if we have to." "Fighting will kill thousands," Day said quietly. "Maybe millions. All because I couldn't walk away from a bar fight." "You couldn't walk away because they attacked you," Hana said firmly from behind him. "Stop blaming yourself." Matriarch Cress studied Day with those ancient eyes. "Tell me, human, why did you keep fighting? You were injured, outnumbered. Any sensible creature would have submitted. Why did you not?" Day thought about that for a moment. "Because giving up isn't in my nature," he said finally. "Humans don't quit. It's how we survived on Earth. It's how we got to the stars. We just keep going, no matter what." The matriarch made that sound again that might have been a laugh. "Yes, like the first hunters from our legends." She turned to Ambassador Shrell. "Cousin, speak honestly. Was Captain Thross in the right?" Ambassador Shrell looked uncomfortable. Matriarch, the human-touched warrior Krell, demanded apology that was refused. "The touch was accidental," Matriarch Cress said. The bartender confirmed this. Multiple witnesses confirmed this. Captain Thross escalated. Captain Thross drew a blade against an unarmed opponent. Captain Thross violated every principle of honorable combat. She leaned forward. And then this human, broken and bleeding, still stood. Still fought. Still refused to yield. That is the definition of a warrior, cousin. Not someone who draws blades against the injured. The room was silent. No one had expected the matriarch to take Day's side. Ambassador Shrell looked torn. "The Empire demands justice," he said weakly. "Then let the Empire have justice," Matriarch Cress said. "But true justice, not revenge." She turned to Day. "Human, I invoke the ancient right of Krethok. Trial by combat. You will face one warrior chosen by the Empire. If you win, the matter is settled and your species owes nothing. If you lose, Terra will pay reparations to the Empire and issue a formal apology." Ambassador Park stood up quickly. "Absolutely not. Day is injured. He can barely walk. This would be murder, not justice." "I will do it," Day said. Everyone turned to stare at him. Hana's grip on his shoulder tightened. "Day, no. This is the only way to end it without war," Day said. "If I refuse, ships will start shooting. People will die. If I accept and lose, only I die. That's a better trade." "You won't just lose," Ambassador Park said. "You'll be humiliated." They'll choose their best warrior, someone undefeated, and they'll make an example of you. The entire galaxy will watch you fail. Then they'll watch me fail, Day said. But at least they won't watch millions die in a war that started over a bar fight. Matriarch Crest nodded slowly. Brave words? Foolish, perhaps, but brave. She looked at Ambassador Shrell. Cousin, present this offer to Commander Thren. A trial by Krathok. If he refuses, then the Empire will be seen as cowardly, afraid to test their champion against one injured human. Ambassador Shrell looked unhappy but nodded. He left the room to make the call. While they waited, Hana pulled Dai aside. This is suicide, she said quietly. You can barely stand. How are you going to fight their champion? The same way I fought 6 of them, Day said. By not quitting. That's not a plan. That's just stubbornness. It's worked so far. Hana wanted to argue more, but Ambassador Shrell returned. His expression said everything. Commander Thren accepts. The trial will take place aboard the Blood Talon in 12 hours. The champion is already chosen. His name is Vor. He is undefeated in 47 trials by combat. 47, Ambassador Park repeated. He looked at Day. Are you sure about this? Day stood up carefully. His ribs protested. His shoulder throbbed. His whole body hurt. No, he admitted. But I'm doing it anyway. The news spread across the galaxy within minutes. Another human moment being broadcast to billions of viewers. This time it wasn't a bar fight caught by accident. This was an official trial, sanctioned by both governments with proper cameras and commentary. Every species would be watching. Every military would be analyzing. The entire galaxy would see what happened when a human faced the Vrexan Empire's greatest warrior. In his quarters, Day tried to rest, but sleep wouldn't come. His body needed healing time, but he would get 12 hours at most. He spent the time doing gentle stretches, trying to keep his muscles from stiffening completely. Hana sat with him, applying fresh bandages and checking his injuries. You know this is crazy, she said for the 10th time. I know, Day said for the 10th time. Vor moved with the confidence of someone who had never lost. He circled Day slowly, studying him like a scientist studies an interesting specimen. The Vrexan champion was in perfect condition, his muscles rippling under his scales, his breathing calm and controlled. Day, by contrast, was held together by medical tape and stubbornness. The first attack came fast. Vor lunged forward with a claw strike aimed at Day's injured shoulder. The champion had studied the medical reports. He knew where Day was weakest. The strike hit exactly where it was meant to, and Day felt the partially healed wound tear open again. Blood seeped through his shirt. Day backed away, trying to create distance, but Vor followed smoothly. Another strike, this time to the ribs. Day blocked with his arm, but the impact sent pain shooting through his broken bones. He gasped and stumbled. In the galleries above, the Vrexan crew made sounds of approval. This was going exactly as they expected. The human would fall quickly, and their champion would prove that the bar fight had been a fluke. Humans were weak. This would show everyone Vor pressed his advantage. He was faster than Day, stronger than Day, and completely uninjured. Every exchange ended with Day taking more damage. A kick to the knee made his bad ankle buckle. A punch to the face split his lip and loosened a tooth. Within 2 minutes, Day was bleeding from multiple places and struggling to stay on his feet. In the diplomatic viewing area, Hana gripped the railing so hard her knuckles turned white. Ambassador Park watched with a grim expression. They had known this would be difficult, but watching it was worse than imagining it. Vor caught Day with a spinning strike that sent him crashing to the arena floor. The Vrexan champion stood over him, waiting. In their culture, staying down was submission. If Day didn't get up, the fight was over. Day's vision swam. Everything hurt. His body was screaming at him to stay down, to quit, to let this end. It would be so easy. Just stay down. Just let it be over. But somewhere in his head he heard his old drill instructor from the Colonial Marines. A grizzled veteran named Sergeant Coe, who had trained hundreds of recruits. Pain is just weakness leaving the body, Coe used to say. The body will quit 1,000 times before the mind has to. Don't listen to the body. Listen to the mission. Day pushed himself up. First to his knees, then using the arena wall for support to his feet. He turned to face Vor again. The Vrexan champion tilted his head, genuinely puzzled. Why do you stand? You cannot win. This is clear to everyone watching. Probably not, Day admitted through swollen lips. But I'm standing anyway. Something changed in Vor's eyes. Not respect, not yet, but curiosity. He had fought 47 trials. He had faced warriors from a dozen species. All of them had eventually stayed down when the pain became too much. But this human kept getting up. They fought for another minute. Then another. Day wasn't winning. He was barely surviving. But he was surviving. Every time Vor knocked him down, he stood back up. Slower each time, more unsteady each time. But he stood. 5 minutes into the fight, something interesting happened. Vor's breathing changed. It became slightly heavier. Not much, but enough. Vrexen biology was built for quick, powerful movements. Extended fights were not their strength, Day noticed. Through the pain and the blood and the blurred vision, he noticed. This was the same thing that happened in the bar. The Vrexen were sprinters. Humans were marathon runners. If Day could just survive long enough, Vor would tire. But surviving was getting harder. Day's body was reaching its limits. He had lost too much blood. His broken ribs were grinding against each other with every breath. His vision kept darkening at the edges. He was going to pass out soon. He could feel it. Vor came at him again, and this time Day didn't try to dodge or block. He stepped into the attack, taking it on his already broken ribs, and wrapped his arms around the champion in a clinch. It was a desperate move, buying seconds to recover while limiting Vor's ability to strike. Vor tried to throw him off, but Day held on with everything he had. In the galleries, some Vrexen made sounds of confusion. This wasn't proper fighting. This was just holding on, but holding on was what humans did best. "Let go," Vor said, trying to pry Day off. "No," Day replied. They struggled like that for 30 seconds. Vor's superior strength would break the clinch eventually, but for those 30 seconds, Day wasn't getting hit. He was recovering. His breathing steadied slightly. His vision cleared a little. 30 seconds of not being hurt was 30 seconds of healing. When Vor finally threw him off, Day rolled with the momentum and came up in a defensive stance. He was still losing, still hurt, but he had bought himself time. 8 minutes into the fight, Vor was breathing hard. His movements were still precise, still dangerous, but they were slower now. The champion was used to fights ending in under 3 minutes. 8 minutes of continuous combat was pushing even his exceptional endurance. Day was breathing hard too, but humans were built to breathe hard. His ancestors had run down prey while breathing hard for hours. This was natural. This was normal. For the first time since the fight began, Day attacked first. It wasn't a powerful attack, just a quick jab that Vor blocked easily. But it made the champion retreat a step. That step was important. It meant Day wasn't just prey anymore. He was a threat. The fight continued. 10 minutes, 11, 12. In the galleries, the Vrexen crew had stopped making sounds of approval. They were watching in silence now, trying to understand what they were seeing. Their champion was still winning every exchange, but the human refused to fall. It was unnatural. It was disturbing. Matriarch Cress watched with her ancient eyes, and she was the only Vrexen in the room who was not surprised. "The first hunters," she murmured to herself. The legends were true. 15 minutes into the fight, Vor made his first mistake. He threw a powerful strike meant to end things, putting everything behind it. Day saw it coming and moved just enough that the strike missed his head and hit his shoulder instead. It hurt. But Day used the momentum to spin behind Vor and catch him in a chokehold from behind. It was the same move he had used in the bar. The same technique that had confused the Vrexen warriors then, because they didn't understand submission holds. Vor understood them better than his species usually did, but he was tired now and the move caught him off guard. Day squeezed with everything he had left. His arms felt like they were on fire. His whole body was shutting down from exhaustion and pain, but he held on. 20 seconds. 30. Vor thrashed and tried to throw him off, but Day had learned from the bar fight. He knew how to hold on. 40 seconds. 50. Vor's movements became weaker. The lack of oxygen was doing its work. 60 seconds. 70. At 80 seconds, Vor's hand moved to tap against Day's arm. 3 quick taps. The universal signal of submission. Day let go immediately and stumbled back. Vor dropped to his knees, gasping for air. The arena was completely silent. Hundreds of Vrexen stared in disbelief. The undefeated champion had submitted to an injured human. Day stood there, swaying on his feet, blood running down his face and arms, barely conscious. But standing, always standing, Matriarch Cress's voice broke the silence. "The trial is concluded. The human has proven his honor in combat. The matter is settled under Vrexin law. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, Commander Thren stood up in his viewing box. His face showed a mix of emotions, anger, confusion, and something that might have been respect. He raised one clawed hand and began the slow clicking sound that Vrexin used for approval. After a moment, his crew joined in. The clicking sound filled the arena, growing louder and louder. Vor, still on his knees and catching his breath, looked up at Day. "How?" he asked simply. Day's legs finally gave out and he sat down hard on the arena floor. "Humans don't quit," he said. "It's just what we do." Vor stared at him for a long moment, then made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Crazy species," he said. But there was respect in his voice. Medical teams rushed into the arena. Hana was first, dropping to her knees beside Day. "You idiot," she said, tears running down her face. "You beautiful, stupid idiot. Did I win?" Day asked. His vision was going dark. "Yes," Hana said. "You won." "Good," Day said, and passed out. He woke up 3 days later in a proper medical facility on the Terran diplomatic ship. His body was covered in bandages and connected to various machines. Every part of him hurt, but it was a distant hurt muted by pain medication. Hana was sleeping in a chair beside his bed. When he moved, she woke up immediately. "Hey," she said softly. "Welcome back. What happened?" Day asked. His throat was dry and his voice came out rough. "You became the most famous human in the galaxy," Hana said. "The fight was broadcast everywhere. Billions of people watched you refuse to quit against impossible odds. Military academies are already analyzing your tactics. Diplomats are using you as an example in negotiations. The Vrexin Empire has opened formal dialogue with Terra for military exchange programs." "Exchange programs?" "They want to learn from us. They want to understand how humans fight. Commander Thren sent a formal message saying that any species that can produce warriors like you deserves respect and cooperation." Hana smiled. "You changed everything, Day. The galaxy looks at humans differently now.